About 1.4 million voters haven't received their Easy Vote packs 3 days into the 13-day voting period. Electoral law expert Graham Edgler says the thing that delays them is that the cards of party lists and the names of local candidates. He told Mike Hosking this delay is the norm and it would be almost impossible to get them out on time.
They can't send these out, a month in advance or something like that because nominations didn't close until basically the 16th of last month.
Graham Edgler adds mail is not as fast as it used to be. And fresh signs of just how closely healthcare and the cost of living crisis are intertwined. The Kiwi Concerns report surveyed more than 1,000 people ahead of the election, with the cost of living coming out as the biggest concern. But independent political commentator Grant Duncan says people are also concerned about timely access to quality healthcare and the cost of maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Saying that they're worried about being able to keep up with the cost of the best ingredients for their meals and also for some of the things that we need to buy in order to be able to keep in good health.
The cruise industry is booming again, with New Zealand set to reap the rewards. A total of 54 ships will make 1,000 visits to our shores this season, expecting to bring around 350,000 passengers. It comes as cruise ships reach a new popularity among younger passengers, with millennials and Gen Xers both the biggest growing market. New Zealand Cruise Association Chief Executive Jackie Lloyd told Mike Hosking it's been a star performer for our tourism recovery.
As you travel around the country, 12 different ports, you're in 12 different locations. Each one's a night's cruise away. So to visit the country and experience New Zealand by a ship is something that's really popular.
Hopes two of the country's most high-profile cold case murders could be cracked thanks to a new DNA tool. Police have confirmed they've begun trialling a controversial genetic investigative tool comparing the DNA of unidentified suspects with genetic profiles on genealogy websites. Our newsroom can confirm police and the Institute of Environmental Science Research will trial the tool for two cold cases: the murder of Alicia O'Reilly in 1980 and the 2008 murder of Mallory Manning. Marlborough residents could be in for an expensive few years, with millions more needed for road repairs than first thought. Fixing the flood-damaged transport system is expected to cost $74 million more, totalling $234 million. Marlborough District Council Chief Executive Mark Wheeler says their cost estimates were cautious but reflect the current reality.
The towns are a complex environment and difficult to work in. You've seen construction cost inflation with shortage of contractors.
Rates are expected to rise by 10%, assuming Waka Kotahi provides financial assistance. 40% of amphibian species worldwide are threatened with extinction. An assessment published in the scientific journal Nature updates a landmark 2004 study and includes data from more than 1,000 experts. Amphibians are still most at threat from habitat loss, and disease remains a substantial issue, but climate change has emerged as a growing risk. That's Newstalk ZB News with Southpack Trucks, distributors of hard-working luxury DAF trucks.
To Newstalk ZB Sport, the 2030 Men's World Cup shapes as a cosmopolitan football affair across 6 countries and 3 continents if ratified at the Sports Congress next year. Spain, Portugal and Morocco have been named as the co-hosts, with the opening 3 matches taking place in Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay. The South American elements designed to mark the World Cup centenary. The inaugural tournament was held in Montevideo. Beyond that, Saudi Arabia are expected to make a maiden pitch for the 2034 edition. And Newcastle defender Kieran Trippier is relishing the opportunity to defend against Paris Saint-Germain forward Kylian Mbappe in this morning's Champions League clash at St James's Park, even if it upsets his 6-year-old son. The Premier League club will host their first game in the European competition since 2003. Trippier admits he's indulged in some banter with his boy leading up to the game.
He wanted to walk out with him instead of me, so something I wasn't really happy with. He's obsessed with Mbappe, always watching his clips on YouTube and stuff, so I said to him, if you get to walk out of him, don't look at me in the tunnel.
Kick-offs at 8. Ireland, Scotland or South Africa? All Blacks hooker Cody Taylor's pleaded the fifth regarding who they'd like to face from Pool B if they make the World Cup rugby quarter-finals with a bonus point victory over Uruguay tomorrow. The three sides vying for two spaces in the opposite pool have had to downplay conspiracy theory suggestions about home union collusion. Taylor says he's unfazed.
We go to a quarter-final, I don't really care who we play. You've got to front up no matter what and prepare accordingly. So, yeah, whatever that looks like, I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Newstalk ZB's coverage of France 2023 with Harvey Norman. Blackout deals on TVs, audio and home appliances. Liam Lawson's been confirmed to stand in for AlphaTauri's recovering Daniel Ricciardo for the fifth straight race at this weekend's Qatar Formula One Grand Prix. Qatar is a sprint weekend. A 100-kilometre race on Saturday leads to the main event on Sunday night. Points are available in both. I'm Andrew Alderson, and that's Newstalk ZB News and Sport, 2:25 to 8.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
Mike Pero Real Estate, local expertise and fair, transparent fees. Now the Southern Motorway City bound, moderate to heavy. Manukau through to Green Lane, southbound easing through East Tamaki. The northwestern moderate heavy from the Causeway. Looking at the northern moderate heavy in patches coming in from Constellation. Trusted advice, right price. Mike Pero Real Estate, licensed RE AA 2008. Time saver traffic.
Newstalk ZB Weather Watch 24/7 with Mercedes-Benz Botany. Guarantee your future value with Agility Finance. Manukau and Waitemata, southwest 10 knots rising to 15 late morning, southwest easing to 10 late evening. Hodaki Gulf, southwest 15 rising to 20 knots about the outer Gulf tonight, and a strong wind advisory, Bream Head to Cape Colville. High tide at Auckland 20 to 1 this afternoon, Onehunga 3:30 this afternoon. Today mainly fine, areas of morning and evening cloud, southwesterlies fresh this afternoon. Tomorrow cloudy, and ahead to Saturday expect occasional rain, clearing to fine in the evening. A high today 18, currently it's 12 here at Newstalk ZB.
David Seymour facing the tough questions on the Mike Hosking Breakfast with Bailey's Real Estate. Altogether better across residential, commercial and rural on Newstalk ZB.
23 minutes away from 8. Welcome to our second Leaders Breakfast. This is the minor leaders today. If you're in Parliament, you got an invitation. One didn't respond to the invitation, so they're not there. But David Seymour, the ACT leader, did. And he is with us. A very good morning to you. Now, the polls last night, do you believe them?
No, I don't. Bounce around, but we poll ourselves. We have ourselves at 13. Maybe that's a bit higher than the others, but if you average it all out, you've got ACT somewhere between 10 and 12. And you asked me a second ago, would we be happy about that? Well, yes, it means that ACT's got 50% growth in 3 years. But for people who want to cut government waste, you've finally got a voice in government. New Zealand hasn't really had that for a generation. For someone that wants red tape and regulation / you've got a powerful voice for that. And if you're sick of your local dairy getting done over and want some consequences, there's a voice. Most importantly, if you want someone with the courage to talk about what our treaty really means, which is the same rights and duties for all, not the misinterpretation that's been dividing us for the last few decades, then that's a very powerful vehicle for people to vote for with their party vote.
What's your vibe on the ground in campaigning? Are people going to vote? Are they out, whether it's you or not?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the numbers have been down and there's a whole debate about, is it school holidays, is it Saturday, do people have their how to vote cards, how could the Electoral Commission not know the election was coming and print them? But what I'm hearing is people saying, look, I've already voted. It's always a good sign when people say, yeah, I've already voted for you. And when you ask people, are you going to vote, overwhelmingly they say yes. So I think we will get decent turnout, certainly from the people I'm talking to. And with a little bit of luck, people will look at Labour's record and find it very, very difficult to get motivated to come out for them.
Essentially, this is an election about, do you want more of what we've had or do you want change? That's fundamentally what it comes down to. Your question, though, is the same as has been put to Luxon over and over again. If people want change, if the anger is so great, the frustration so large, why aren't you guys a mile ahead?
Yeah, look, it's a fair question. I think the challenge is that what we face is so great as a country. I mean, you look at the economy; it's not just inflation; it's really productivity. If you look at crime, this has got out of control for a long time, and so has the treaty. And I think the question that people ask me, that seems to be their major hesitation, is, can you really fix this in the time that you've got? And I think what we need is a clear belief that yes, actually, it is possible for people with the courage of their convictions to have honest, healthy debate and conversations and make the changes that New Zealand needs. And that's why ACT, most parties select their slogan, a couple of weeks before the election. We've been talking about real change for 2 years now. And I say to people, understand your hesitation, but yes, we can actually make sure that this little country is a first world nation and an island paradise where you can get a high-paying job that's interesting, where it is safe to send your kids to the dairy, and where you do actually feel that you are a citizen with equal dignity and rights as anyone else, no matter how you're born, whether you've been here for 15 generations or one, you are a New Zealander.
See, here's the problem I have with minor parties, and I'll put this to James Shaw as well. You don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have a bottom line, do you? There are no bottom lines for you.
No, because people talk about bottom lines and it's really just a list of opportunities to throw their toys out of the cot. I think, the question for people thinking about where to put their vote is, who is your strongest voice for fixing the economy, for crime, for getting higher standards in education? ACT will not get every single thing that they've ever campaighed for, but neither will any party.
What will you get? See, if I look to you, I mean, you're not going to be a major player. As much as you would like to think you will be, you are not. You're a minor player. You're an appendage to a bigger party. So based on that, and if I look to vote for you, what is it I will actually get? Yes, you'll have a voice, and yes, you'll be there, and all that. That's fantastic. But literally, what am I voting for?
Well, let's put it this way. I think the right question is not about the party, it's about the voter. How do you get the most value for your vote? So will you get less government waste than you would with National left to their own devices? Absolutely, guarantee it. Will you get harsher consequences for crime and more rights for victims? Guarantee it. Will you get more courage in actually defining what the treaty principles mean and ideally putting them to referendum? Yes, you will. So from the point of view of someone saying, who do I trust with my vote? You can be absolutely guaranteed that while you won't agree with everything ACT says, and while not everything ACT says will become law tomorrow, certainly in terms of value for your votes, you can't go past ACT so long as your beliefs align with ours.
Brief break, more in a moment with David Seymour, 18-2.
Stop by New World to try a new dinner recipe this week with pork leg roast bone-in, $9.49 per kilo, and Telegraph cucumbers, $2.99 each. Now that's New World value. Sizes and restrictions apply.
New Zealand's economy is struggling, and so are Kiwis. National will rebuild the economy to get it working for you, with higher wages, a lower cost of living, and the ability to afford the quality public services we all rely on. Let's get our country back on track.
Authorised by J2Ju, 41 Pipatia Street, Wellington.
Milldale, part of the wider Orewa community, enjoys all the amenities of the Hibiscus Coast, plus every benefit a new development can provide. With a wide range of housing options, styles and sizes, a thriving community and dedicated future-proofed infrastructure, Milldale continues to experience high demand. Approved builders have new homes for sale right now, so come and learn why Milldale is the growing choice for Aucklanders, because everything's right here.
Seize the day, make it terrific. Live on life prosperity.
Spring is here. Make it terrific. Stock up now on your favourite lipospheric vitamin C. People who know will tell you Lipo with a Y is the one to buy. Shop at Unichem and Life Pharmacies, Chemist Warehouse, Health 2000 stores, Bargain Chemist, and online at Health Post. Read the label, take as directed. John Appleton, Auckland.
Live on life prosperity.
The 100% electric ID4 and ID5 have arrived at Giltrap Volkswagen. With incredible design and groundbreaking electric performance, the new ID4 and ID5 combine SUV usability with the sustainability of an EV. Discover a revolutionary way to drive in the next generation of Volkswagen. To get started on your electric journey, visit Giltrap Volkswagen today. 100 Great North Road, Grey Lynn, or call 09 360 3200 to pre-book your ID test drive.
Search for regencyplumbing.co.nz.
You've been searching for the best team to take control of your hot water installation. A team who understands your needs and helps you select the best products. A team you can rely on for workmanship and perfectly timed project management. Search for Regency Plumbing, Auckland's #1 hot water installation team.
Search for regencyplumbing.co.nz.
Thought-provoking, opinionated, enlightening. The Leighton Smith Podcast.
We've been told the 2023 election is the most important of our lifetime, maybe ever. Retired politician and ex-Auckland Mayor John Banks issues forth unrestrained on the state of the country and the change of direction New Zealand so desperately needs. Podcast 213.
Subscribe now on iHeartRadio and get the latest episode now. The Leighton Smith Podcast, powered by Newstalk ZB.
We're at 7:45. David Seymour until 8, and then James Shaw from the Greens afterwards. As far as bottom lines, let's just finish up on this. If you don't have bottom lines, what are two of the most important things that if I voted for you, I would see out of a National Act government come to pass?
Yes. Look, it's cutting back government waste to make sure that the living costs come down, and ultimately New Zealand is more productive. We need better quality public services.
Is that tangible enough? I mean, I think back to what you did last time, charter schools. Charter schools are a thing. I can say act with it, and charter schools happened. Is waste saving something you can sell?
Yeah, it is, because people are infuriated when they see that I'm tightening my belt in my business and my household, and yet these guys are just absolutely incontinent with their spending. It infuriates people, and it's a question of, well, what will the Nats do? Back office bureaucrats somewhere will be gone. We're talking about whole departments, we're talking about whole programs, we're talking about seriously reducing the amount of government spending, and we need to do that to take pressure off people's mortgages by taking pressure off inflation so that people can breathe at the end of the week. Because hearing about people, cancelling my kids' school swimming lessons because I can't afford my mortgage, earn 6 figures, in-laws helping me with the mortgage. So that is actually tangible, and it's urgent for people.
How tangible is it? And the reason I ask that question is if you talk to the banks about stressed mortgages, this mortgage cliff that was going to come, it hasn't happened. It simply hasn't happened. It doesn't appear to be as bad as people like you made it out to be.
Well, actually, the way that people are holding on, you go into any shop and they say, look, don't look at the foot traffic, have a look at the shopping bags. People are going in, but they're fundamentally not spending. Sure, people have held on, in part because I think, and as you've said many times on your show, the inflation has meant that wages and prices continue to spiral and people just get it together, but they're doing that with huge pain. And as you've said many times, I don't know if that can continue. I can tell you, Mike, I'm quite sure it can't. And the only thing that can change is if you cut government waste. I mean, we urgently need this. The second issue, if you asked about a couple, if we don't start delivering public services based on need rather than race or ethnicity, then I can tell you we are going to increasingly become a divided country, because if the state keeps telling people to regard each other as a race where our identity starts to trump our common humanity, then we will go nowhere good as a country. And we need the courage to stand up to the people who constantly shout us down saying, oh, you're racist, you're race baiting, what's the evidence? Don't have any. Okay, well, stop saying it so we can have an adult conversation.
How big an issue is that in all reality when you've got things like crime, when you've got the cost of living crisis, this Maorification, if you want, of New Zealand? How big a deal is that on the campaign trail?
Look, it's absolutely essential to the future of New Zealand, and more and more people, I saw a poll, 26% of people say that co-government is their biggest issue. People that understand that before you can talk about having a good education curriculum, before you can do resource consents to build more homes, which we need to do, before you can have an adult conversation about genetic technology, you have to actually believe that there's one objective world, there's one science, there's one humanity. Until you can believe in those things, then you actually can't make progress at anything, because we spend so much time, and this is true in the bureaucracy too. Every moment that you spend trying to uphold te tiriti is a moment that you're not delivering world-class services.
Do you believe in National that they can do what you would, not to your extent, obviously, because you vote for a different party, but they can do what you would want to do in an efficient, professional way, so that at the end of 3 years you can go, glad I was in government with them, let's do it again?
Yeah, and I think that'll be the ultimate test. So your question before about bottom lines, in 3 years' time, people listening to your show and up and down New Zealand are going to be saying, well, I gave my party vote to ACT, did I get less government waste? Did I get tougher measures on crime? Did I get more unity and less division over race? And if people say, yeah, if I hadn't given my party vote to ACT, we would be worse off if National were left to their own devices, I think people will be back as repeat customers. And like any person in any business, the number one thing I want is repeat customers. And the only way to do that is to have integrity, do what you say you're going to do. If people trust you with your vote, you take that seriously and you get results for them. And the other thing I'd say is, look, we're not going to take the baubles of office. I mean, I had that offer in 2015. You know, JK said, you want to be a minister, you're 31 years old, we'll give you a 50 grand pay rise, a limo, a title. A lot of people would have gone for that. I said no, and passing end-of-life choice is a lot more important for me today than any of that could have been.
You would expect to be in cabinet this time around, though, and right up there, surely.
Look, I think if you look at the result, and we don't know what it will be yet, but let's say we had a result that was a bit like recent polls and acts a quarter of the government, then yeah, that would be a bigger proportion of a second party than we've seen before. However, the one thing I would say is that unless we're prepared to join hands around the cabinet table and have an action plan to actually deal to these issues so people can afford to live in a safe and united community with high education standards and maybe get a few operations done for a change in the hospitals, then we might say, look, actually we think that you can have our votes, you'll be in government, but we're not going to take ministerial positions and be apologists for bad policy. So the good policy comes first, the positions for politicians come second, and I know that that's unusual, but again, if you want repeat business, if you want to have integrity, then you've got to put the voters and their objectives before your own baubles.
Remaining moments with David Seymour shortly, 9 to 8.
Newstalk ZB headlines.
David Seymour says he'll take no bottom lines into coalition talks. Health is looming large this election in more ways than one. The cruise industry needs to have the right ships in the right place at the right time. We're told the ETS can't do it on its own. And in sport, Ben Stokes is in doubt for England's first World Cup match against the Black Caps. Why the sense of the unknown lingers for the All Blacks? You can read more at NZ Herald Premium.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
NZHL helping Kiwis reach financial freedom faster. Now the northwestern moderate to heavy coming in from the Causeway, the northern moderate to heavy city-bound Constellation through to Oniwa, the southern motorway moderate to heavy in patches from Manukau through to Green Lane, southwestern northbound moderate to heavy from Great South Road. Manage your mortgage and insurance better. Visit nzhl.co.nz. Ivanka Zonich for Time Saver Traffic.
With the rising cost of living, it seems everything is getting more expensive for hard-working Kiwis. That's why Fujitsu is doing their bit to make home comfort more affordable. Right now, when you install a Fujitsu whole home ducted system with Fujitsu's Cool Finance, you'll pay no deposit, no interest for up to 36 months. Why wait? Fit a Fujitsu. It's New Zealand's favourite air.
Fit a Fujitsu. Purchase eligible model by 15th December 23. Domestic and residential only. Fees, terms and conditions including minimum finance amounts apply. Credit by Hum. See fujitsugeneral.co.nz.
Now, the more observant among you will have noticed that spring is upon us, which means the clock is ticking to get the garden in shape in time for the growing season, of course, and planting is the order of the day, and our friends at Palmer's Garden Centre have swung into action with some great deals to get you started. So the spring sale is now on until October 16. Gives you 20% off selected Palmer's Garden tools and selected outdoor pots, and for the missing ingredient, you got two 30-litre Palmer's Garden X compost bags for just $16, plus you got two Tui tomato mix bags for $30. T's and C's apply there, by the way. Simply jump online. They're at palmers.co.nz. You can pop into one of their 12 locally owned stores. Friendly advice, plenty of friendly advice, because the people in Palmers love gardening just as much as you do. There is nothing the Palmers team love more than a good old natter about how best to see your garden in full bloom for this summer. Or as they like to put it, let's grow together. So you've got the good deals on at the moment, you've got the weather coming right, the spring is in the air, and Palmers are the people for you. So online for all the details, and then go see the friendly folk once you've done that. palmers.co.nz.
Explore the ancient history, vibrant cities and coastal communities of the Mediterranean. Sail on board Viking's modern small ships with no kids, no casinos and all veranda staterooms. With cruises from 8 to 29 days starting from $5,495 per person with everything you need included. Plus, for a limited time, receive up to $2,500 flight credit per couple. Book at Viking.com or see your Viking travel agent.
David Seymour on the Mike Hosking Breakfast with Bailey's Real Estate on Newstalk ZB.
6 away from 8, remaining moments with David Seymour. Quick word about Tamaki, which you're a serious contender, and it's a blue seat in Auckland. You think Brooke Van Velden, and some scuttlebutt yesterday, Paula Bennett turns up for a cup of tea with Brooke Van Velden. The National Party aren't happy about it. Do you back yourself to win that seat?
Well, I back Brooke Van Velden, and I think the message, if you're sitting in Tamaki thinking what to do, Paula Bennett is one of the wiliest political tacticians the National Party's had for a long time. She understands that Brooke Van Velden winning Tamaki won't change the overall election result. The party vote does that, but Brooke Van Velden winning Tamaki would be a change for the better, because if I was a Tamaki voter, I'd be saying, do I want someone who's young, vibrant, speaks to the future with an economics degree, or do I want somebody that's been, as some people say, invisible in recent times? It's an easy choice. You don't lose anything by voting for Brooke and Tamaki, but you do gain a lot.
Well, what do you gain? Because under MMP, you don't need another seat. You're 5+. That's what MMP is all about at the end of the day. What's the difference between 2 seats and your 1?
I think for the future of New Zealand, we need more parties on the right. We need parties that want the government out of the boardroom and the bedroom. And I mean people who want low taxes, but also want to be free to live how they want to live, so long as they're not harming others. We had an article by the Washington Post recently, because up there they're looking at these questions. How is it that you either vote for people who want to tax you up the wazoo or interfere in your life? What Brooke Van Velden represents, I think, is a new thing where actually you can vote for lower taxes and personal freedom. And I think that her brand, her personality and her work ethic fits the Tamaki electorate much better than what they have now. It won't change the election result, but it will make a big change for the better in Tamaki.
Do you reckon during this campaign and over the course of the campaign you've changed Roger Douglas's mind, given what he said that he didn't know who to vote for this year?
Well, actually, I've heard he's talked to one of our mutual friends in the last few weeks and said, oh, no, he's doing okay. And actually, I know that they were talking about putting a pink X sign on his fence. I don't know if they delivered him one. But look, I've always had enormous respect for Rog. But I also just point out he's the ultimate revolutionary. He's rebelled against every party leader that he's been a member of the party since Norman Kirk in the early 70s. And I'd be frankly disappointed if he didn't rebel against me too.
Call it and try and be honest about this. Call it for the night. You will get about 12, you've said.
Yep.
National will get across the line at...
Yep. So
high 30s, early 40s?
High 30s in the percent. You'll see an ACT national government ready for real change from day one. No other outcome bears thinking about it. If you want to see a change for the better in New Zealand, if you want to see steel to government waste so you can afford to breathe at the end of the week, a safer and more united society, then the only option is to party vote ACT in order that we get not just a change of personnel, but a real change and a stable one at that.
Good to see you.
Thank
David
you very
Seymour,
much.
News is next.
Buying or selling gold or silver? Deal with the company that has a solid reputation. Regal Bullion. Trading for over 40 years and primary distributor for the Perth Mint. Regal Bullion. 0800 881 888.
Countdown is changing to Woolworths, and you'll see changes for the better with low price on things we depend on, like Countdown pre-packed brown onions 1.5 kg, just $3.80 for weeks and weeks. Low price, a fresh way to save from Countdown.
It's spring and it's price trimming season again at Still Shop. We've trimmed and sawed and pruned and mowed down the prices with GST off a wide range of our trusted tools. Plus we've got loads of other great deals going on as well. So just when you need to get your garden sorted without feeling that pinch in your pocket, you can save on line trimmers and lawnmowers, chainsaws and water blasters. You'll be set for spring. So for the most trusted gardening tools from New Zealand's favourite garden equipment retailer, head to your local Still Shop. Still Shop, up your land.
On the go and need new tyres? Let Hyperdrive bring the tyre store to you. Hyperdrive's mobile tyre fitting service will roll right to your doorstep, office, or wherever you are. No more waiting in line or rearranging your schedule. Hyperdrive will balance and fit your tyres to perfection, all at a time and place that works best for you. Hyperdrive's mobile tyre fitting, making your life on the road a smooth ride.
The largest range of tyres online.
You wouldn't buy a car off a dealership without a warrant of fitness. So why would you buy a tiny home without a CCC? That's a code compliance certificate, and every House Me Tiny Home comes with one. That's not something everyone else can say. Ask them if you like. CCC more at houseme.co.nz or call 0800 468 736. House Me, the biggest name in tiny homes.
Milldale, part of the wider Orewa community, enjoys all the amenities of the Hibiscus Coast, plus every benefit a new development can provide. With a wide range of housing options, styles and sizes, a thriving community and dedicated future-proofed infrastructure, Milldale continues to experience high demand. Approved builders have new homes for sale right now, so come and learn why Milldale is the growing choice for Aucklanders, because everything's right here.
In Auckland on 89.4, this is Newstalk ZB. James Shaw, coming up next on the Mike Hosking Breakfast with Bailey's Real Estate. This is Newstalk ZB News.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. I'm Niva Reti Manu. ACT leader David Seymour is defending his party's lack of bottom lines. He told Mike Hosking, coalition bottom lines are just a list of opportunities for politicians to throw their toys out of the cot.
The question for people thinking about where to put their vote is, who is your strongest voice for fixing the economy, for crime? ACT will not get every single thing.
And David Seymour explains what people can expect from ACT National Coalition.
Will you get less government waste than you would with National left to their own devices? Absolutely, guarantee it. Will you get harsher consequences for crime and more rights for victims? Guarantee it.
But Sir John Key has released a video endorsement urging people to vote National only. He says there won't be change unless there's a clear result on election night. Key compares the current situation to the 2008 campaign.
We could only take decisive action because there was a clear result on election night and a strong mandate to get things done.
There's a suggestion pricing carbon might not be the only answer to deal with climate change. New research shows that relying on the emissions trading scheme alone to decarbonise would trigger petrol prices to soar by 60 cents a litre. Massey University Professor Robert McLaughlin says making the carbon price go so high is unfair on consumers. He says when they looked at the international evidence, they found the ETS does work a bit, but it can't reduce emissions alone. A mixture of cruise ships is set to grace New Zealand's shores ahead of a bumper summer. A total of 54 ships will make 1,000 visits this season, expecting to bring around 350,000 passengers. Domestic travellers are also on board, with around 12% of New Zealand travellers planning for one. New Zealand Cruise Association Chief Executive Jackie Lloyd told Mike Hosking around half of the ships coming in are under 1,000 passengers.
We've got a nice mix between large and small experiential expedition style ships, and we're actually currently working on a national strategy for New Zealand for cruise to ensure we get the right ships in the right places at the right times.
A retail advocate says the latest Retail NZ crime report is worth paying attention to. The reports found the sector lost just under $2.6 billion from retail crime in the year to August. It's also found 92% of retailers had suffered a crime in the past year. Chair of Auckland Sandringham Business Association, Chitin Chittibomber, says sometimes the people working the shops are lost in the conversation about crime.
This is just not a store. These are people, families, family-owned businesses, real people in these businesses being affected financially, mentally.
Police are planning to use genetic profiles on genealogy websites to try to crack 2 cold case murders. Alongside the Institute of Environmental Science Research, they've begun trialling the controversial genetic investigative tool, comparing the DNA of unidentified suspects with DNA uploaded to online genetic profiles. New Zealand police are using it to look into the 2008 murder of Mallory Manning and the murder of Alicia O'Reilly in 1980. O'Reilly's mother Nancy says she's trying not to get her hopes up but is pleased with the news. And that's Newstalk ZB News with Southpack Trucks.
To Newstalk ZB Sport, a men's World Cup football carbon footprint like no other in 2030. The tournament's set to be played in Europe, Africa and South America. The deal allows the showpiece to start with a 100th birthday party in Uruguay, which hosted the inaugural tournament. Overall, the Spain-Portugal bid has grown to add Morocco and now also includes Argentina and Paraguay as well. All 6 teams will get automatic entry into what will be a 48-team edition. Former Black Caps coach Mike Hesson's urging New Zealand to find the right balance in dealing with Kane Williamson's knee injury. The captain will miss tonight's World Cup cricket opener against England in Ahmedabad, with Tom Latham standing in as skipper, although he took part in the 2 warm-up games. Hesson says there's only one key issue.
I think the only concern really will be around the fielding aspect, whether that's going to ultimately affect his batting.
And a hip complaint has placed Ben Stokes in doubt for England in the fixture as well. A frank admission from All Blacks prop offer Tuangafasi as his side signs off preparation for their final World Cup pool match tomorrow morning in Lyon. New Zealand require a bonus point win from their first official test status meeting with Uruguay to confirm a quarter-final berth. Tuangafasi says diligence and meticulousness have been required.
One of the toughest challenges of preparing for a team that that will be easy to overcome. When that happens, you tend to leave stones unturned. You take it easy on some areas.
Newstalk ZB's coverage of France 2023 with Harvey Norman. Blackout deals on TVs, audio and home appliances. Yannick Sinner's captured his 3rd tennis title of the year and 9th overall with a straight sets double tiebreak victory over Daniil Medvedev at the China Open in Beijing. Sinner had lost to Medvedev in their previous 6 meetings, including 2 earlier this season in the finals at Rotterdam and Miami. And cyclist Mark Cavendish is postponing retirement plans to race on next year and target a record-breaking 35th Tour de France stage win. I'm Andrew Alderson and that's Newstalk ZB News and Sport to 8:05.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver
You
traffic.
could win big every day with Keno. Good morning. The northern moderate to heavy coming in from Constellation. Moderate to heavy in patches on the southern motorway city-bound Manyarewa through to Newmarket. Northwestern, a slow patch there coming in from Partiki. Southwestern northbound moderate to heavy. Lambie Drive through to Bader Drive. $1 could win you $250,000. Play Keno in-store or online.
Newstalk ZB Weather Watch 24/7 with Mercedes-Benz Botany. Guarantee your future value with Agility Finance. Manukau and Waitemata, southwest 10 knots, rising to 15 late morning. Hodaki Gulf, southwest 15, rising to 20 about the outer Gulf tonight. And a strong wind advisory, Bream head to Cape Colville. High tide at Auckland, 20 to 1 this afternoon, and at Onehunga, 3:30 this afternoon. Today, mainly fine, areas of morning and evening cloud, a high of 18 currently. We're sitting on 12 here at Newstalk ZB.
James Shaw going through the policies on the Mike Hosking Breakfast with Arvida. Live the age you feel. Newstalk ZB.
The Mike Hosking Leaders Breakfast continues with James Shaw of the Green Party. We catch up about once every 3 years, and here we are for 2023. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Mike.
How has the campaign been so far in terms of what we're hearing in the media? A little bit of aggro, a little bit of violence, a little bit of upset. Do you see it at all or not?
Look, I haven't personally experienced that, but it is obvious, through the media reports that there is a bit of an uptick in that at this election, and that is, I think, a really unfortunate trend. It's not new, right? I mean, I think we've had this sort of undercurrent in the country for a long time, but we do seem to be going through a bit of a spike of it right now.
Do you think people understand, and this is the Electoral Commission's thing, do you think people understand MMP? When they text me by the hundreds saying, I don't have my pack, I can't vote.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And we expressed this concern to the Electoral Commission, I don't know, sometime in the last year or so, where we said, look, we're really worried that actually people don't understand the voting system as well as they could. I seem to remember some research from a few years ago that said that, and this was done by the Electoral Commission, that said that New Zealanders' understanding of MMP is actually lower now than when it was introduced. And you'll remember this, Mike. You remember that enormous ad campaign? There was a huge public information campaign when we switched voting systems in the mid-90s to kind of teach people, like, here's how it works. And I think we got through that and then we were like, great, job done. And the problem is you've had a whole generation of voters who have been born since then, gone to school and started voting. And don't get it. And no, I get this on the doorsteps, on the phones all the time, when people are tossing up about who to vote for. It's really clear that they actually don't understand the system itself, and I do think as a country we could do a much better job of that.
Without taking your valuable campaigning time up on this, when I distinctly remember, because we're both old now, James, is that when the great Shirtcliffe debate was on,
my Lord, yes.
we essentially got to MMP because we couldn't be bothered voting for anything else, and MMP had the biggest campaign.
Well, it was also that it was the recommendation from the Royal Commission. You know, I think there were people who were arguing for STV, you know, a different system and so on. And my electorate, I think, was the only electorate that voted for STV, come to think of it, by a majority. But basically everywhere else in the country said, well, look, you know, I might have a different preference for what system to switch to, but ultimately, if the Royal Commission has done all this work, they've recommended MMP, I'll back that system. That's my memory of how that went, although that is a very long time ago.
Yes, it is a long time ago. Do you think things would be dramatically different with the climate if you had been allowed to do what you wanted to do under this government of the last 3/6 years?
Well, in terms of climate change policy and action for this country, I think there would have been a number of things that would be further along. For example, the legislation around how we adapt and change our towns and cities and make our buildings more resilient towards the effects of climate change, so the storms and floods that we're experiencing. Ultimately, as you've said before, New Zealand is a small part of the global emissions kind of output. We have an important role to play as a wealthier, developed country in that, and ultimately we'll all have to do our part.
Have you been frustrated these last 3 years?
Well, yes, and I'm also very proud of the work that we've done. I would have liked us to have gone further and faster than we have, and I'm arguing for a third term now with more leverage around the cabinet table for precisely that reason.
Having said that, have they let you down? Have the Labour Party let you down?
No, look, I think ultimately the Green Party is the party that prioritises climate change. The voters have their say on election night, and you have to kind of play the hand that you're dealt. So I've worked with two governments now, very different configurations, and they both had their constraints because we were dealing with parties that had other priorities. And that's just a function of the democratic system. Ultimately, what we're saying is if you're someone who is really concerned about the changing climate and the effect that is already having on us, then if you vote for us and you give us more seats, that means that we will be able to take more action. It's just it's basically a mathematical reality of the democratic system. We will be able to do more if we have more MPs.
Who would be more chaotic? I mean, forget the politics of National Enact for a moment that you don't like, but who would be more chaotic? Would Peters of the right be more chaotic than Te Pāti Māori of the left?
Oh, Peters for sure.
Why?
Well, because you just need to look at the evidence of history here. Is that what he says during an election campaign often doesn't follow through into kind of what happens afterwards. My sense is that he and David Seymour dislike each other intensely. But you worked with him for 3 years, and you could argue that the 6 years of the Labour/Green/New Zealand First government, the most successful 3 years, were the first 3 years. Yeah, I mean, there are a number of things I think that were successful about that, part of which was that you required the votes of all three parties in order to do anything. And what that meant was that by the time, for example, if a cabinet paper got to cabinet, all three parties had to agree on the content. So we were checking each other's homework intensely, and actually that meant that you had better quality government. It also, the way that we sort of saw it was that it was actually the country's first true MMP government, in the sense that you did require the votes of all three parties to pass anything. And that meant that it actually did represent truly the majority of New Zealanders' views. And that meant that the Greens couldn't go as far as we would like on some stuff. New Zealand First couldn't go as far as they would like on some stuff. Labour couldn't go as far as they would like on some stuff. And we kind of, had a consensus view. And it really was a consensus government.
All right. Well,
it wasn't comfortable, Mike, and like I said, I had my frustrations with it. But for example, in climate change, New Zealand First voted for the Zero Carbon Act, which is actually one of the most ambitious pieces of climate change legislation in the world.
All right, brief break. Let's come back with James Shaw in a moment. 13 past.
Looking for a rewarding career with great returns? Become an NZ Hose Doctor today. Employed and franchise positions available nationwide. Visit nz.co.nz.
I started selling Wet and Forget to you, the home use, over 25 years ago. Since then, we've released a whole family of truly New Zealand-made products. And it's safe to say, New Zealanders' roofs, driveways, patios, decks are a whole lot cleaner because of it.
We pride ourselves on making products that really work, and this comes from years of us using them commercially. Hence the catch cry, our products work, you don't. We use gentle chemistry, and we're insistent that nothing leaves our factory until we're totally satisfied it's ready for home use. So when you see the Wet and Forget name, you can be confident it's solid on its foundations, and if we sell it, that means we make it. Therefore, we're right behind it. So, if you're not yet part of the Wet and Forget family, come into one of our 21 stores around the country stocking only the products we make and see what Wet and Forget is all about.
EES are Auckland's air conditioning experts, and we're celebrating Oktoberfest with our hottest deals on air conditioning. Pay from just $6,499 for a Panasonic S60 PE ducted aircon system, including standard installation. T's and C's apply. Book your free home consultation today. Call EES on 0800 337 123 or visit ees.co.nz.
The biggest rugby league event since the 2017 World Cup is here. Don't miss the blockbuster triple header between New Zealand, Samoa and Tonga. It's all going down at Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland's Eden Park on October 21st. The Kiwis will face Samoa, the Kiwi Ferns will line up against Tonga, and an NZ Kiwi A-team will assemble for the first time in 17 years. A full day of culture, code and an unmatched atmosphere this Labour weekend. Tickets selling fast. Get yours from Ticketek. iHeartRadio has a playlist for everyone.
You want rock? It's there. Classical? Got it.
You want artists like Ed Sheeran?
We got that too.
iHeartRadio playlists.
Endless music, always free.
Club members shop and get credit at Super Cheap Auto. Get 20% of your spend back as bonus credit. Shop in store and online this Friday and Saturday. T's and C's apply. Exclusive to club members. Join for free. Make it super. Super Cheap Auto.
Armstrong's Mazda, now open in East Auckland. Huge selection of new and used Mazdas, full servicing and parts. Shop Armstrong's Mazda in October and begin to win $5,000 of fuel. T's and C's apply. Armstrong's Mazda, conveniently located on Tirako Drive, just 8 minutes from Sylvia Park.
Newstalk ZB, 16 past 8, the Mike Hosking Breakfast. James Shaw on the Leaders' Breakfast, this 2023 campaign. You watched, I take it, the minor leaders debate on Television 3 a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was.
I watched parts of it, yeah.
Marama could not have been more in love with Debbie and vice versa. Is she a member of the Green Party or the Maori Party?
I think what was important about that was that people saw that you had two parties who might be in a situation where they might need to work together for the country and have a strong relationship and can work together. So there's a rapport there, and I think that you can't underestimate that in politics. That's why I was saying before about, the difference between David Seymour and Winston Peters isn't just political. I think it's personal as well, and I think that is very, very tough to manage. And actually, if you've got parties where people get on with each other, that makes things a lot easier.
She gets on with Debbie, I suspect, because she looks comfortable in the Maori world. She looks comfortable in the world of socialism, which is not the world I take you to promote, which is environmentalism. I want to hear about national parks and birds and snails. And all I ever hear from her is about deprivation, poverty and misery.
Well, you've got to remember that Marama actually started off campaigning around conservation and the environment. She launched our ocean policy a few weeks ago as well. I think it's a kind of mischaracterization to say that she doesn't care about the environment.
I didn't say she didn't care. I just said she's probably more passionate about something else, which is not really the green movement. I mean, do I have a reasonable point or not? If I was a voter flirting with you guys and the environment's my thing, I don't hear much of that from her. I hear more about you, but the rest of them seem social engineers.
Well, we've had this conversation before, mate. We've never been able to say that those things are distinct from each other for a couple of reasons. Like, I'm obviously, my kind of mastermind specialist subject is climate change, right? It is very difficult to convince someone to worry about climate change or putting solar panels on the roofs or driving an electric car or anything like that if they're struggling to put food on the table, right? So I actually think that making sure that you have a society which takes everyone with you, that leaves no one behind, is a necessary precondition for the work that we want to do around climate and protecting nature. They're that interdependent. And every time we have an argument about any kind of climate policy that I'm, up to, you say, but what about, poor people? What about people who are struggling to make ends meet? What about people who are feeling the pinch? So I understand that. Those two things have to go hand in hand.
Talk to me about the leadership, because since we last talked, you've had some issues there. Are you through it and out the other side?
Oh, God, yes. In fact, I mean, the funny thing is, Mike, I actually keep forgetting that ever happened. And it was obviously kind of big at the time. But ultimately, the vast majority of Green Party members, came out and very strongly supported me. A lot of them were kind of outraged about, what happened.
But those who did treated you appallingly. I mean, it was a shocking display of disloyalty, wasn't it?
I don't sort of frame it as disloyalty, right? I mean, there are people there who have different political views. And ultimately, that question, I think ultimately, right now, if, every time I go around the country, I feel that I can get up and say, we have to be in government, we have to be sitting around the cabinet table. That is how you make change work. And I've been actually more able to say that because I think that the party strongly backs that view in a way that it didn't always, right? We always had this debate about, is it better to be kind of inside or outside and so on and so forth. That is a settled question now. It is absolutely a settled question. And I think the evidence of the last 6 years has demonstrated that when we are in government, we are actually able to make huge advances on
and interestingly enough, unlike the Maori Party, the original version of the Maori Party who got caned for being in government, you've actually, you could argue, given polling currently, survived and thrived.
Not only that, Mike, we are the only support party in the history of MMP who has increased our support in government. Every single other party that's gone into government has gotten thrashed at the subsequent election, and we increased our polling in 2020 over 2017, and we increased it again over 2020. So I think we've actually demonstrated that we can be in government and do government well. And you remember all the myths that people would tell about us before we got into government was that the whole country would be a burning wreck afterwards. Actually, I think we've demonstrated that we're actually very effective and capable and responsible in government with the power that we're given.
Remaining moments with James Shaw shortly, 8:20.
David Seymour on the Mike Hosking Breakfast with Arvida. Newstalk ZB. Newstalk ZB headlines.
James Shaw says he's worried about voters not understanding MMP. Te Pāti Māori claims a person with links to the National Party has been trespassed from the home of one of its candidates. People start lining up to become Republican leader of the US House of Representatives. And in sport, Liam Lawson is confirmed to race the Qatar Formula One Grand Prix this weekend. Who are the people who could become New Zealand First MPs? Well, you can read more at NZ Herald Premium.
Newstalk ZB Auckland. Time saver traffic.
T20 Black Clash is heading to Tauranga in January. Good morning. Now the Southern Motorway moderate heavy city-bound East Tamaki through to Newmarket. Southwestern northbound moderate to heavy from Lambie Drive through to Beta Drive. Northwestern moderate to heavy from the Causeway. The northern moderate to heavy in patches coming in from Constellation. T20 Black Clash cricket versus rugby January the 20th. blackclash.co.nz.
Madras Square is located in the revitalised Christchurch City Centre. Townhouses are priced from only $669,000. This new development from My Career Homes presents an affordable and quality property investment opportunity. There are 2 and 3 bedroom townhouses and car parking options available. With a 10-year master build guarantee and Healthy Homes compliant, this is an investment opportunity not to be missed. To learn more about Madras Square, visit mycareerhomes.co.nz.
Looking for that unforgettable holiday in paradise? Take that well-deserved holiday in Fiji and beyond with Fiji Airways. Your holiday is closer, more affordable and easier than you think. Enjoy non-stop daily flights direct from Auckland to Fiji. Or enjoy a stopover in Fiji on your way to epic destinations like Singapore, Vancouver, America or the Pacific Islands. Fiji, that's where you want to be. Book now at FijiAirways.com or call your local travel agent today.
There's no denying it.
Climate change is real.
In fact, there's been a huge increase in climate change just lately.
With all those political debates producing massive amounts of hot air.
Magnus Benro have just the thing to keep you cool.
A fridge, obviously.
The Fisher & Paykel French door refrigerator.
It's big, it's beautiful, it's clever. It's great buying at Magnus Benro this week.
Yours for only $3,695.
And before you ask, we're not ruling out doing a deal with anyone.
100% Magnus Benro.
Buying or selling gold or silver? Deal with the company that has a solid reputation. Regal Bullion. Trading for over 40 years and primary distributor for the Perth Mint. Regal Bullion. 0800 881 888.
Repco are bringing the Bathurst with up to 30% off selected brands, including TRW braking and Ryco filters, Armour All and Maguire's Car Care, Penrite and Castrol Oil and more this Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Repco, bringing the Bathurst.
Now, freedom comes from doing, and doing needs mobility and stamina. We believe healthy ageing, of course, should be about having more opportunities and adventures, not less. So if you're feeling like maybe you could do with some support with your energy, your joint mobility and more, Leicester's Oil, Resv Ultimate from About Health may be able to help. Known, of course, as the Healthy Ageing Pack. Together it supports your health so you can go for walks and spend time with your grandkids, play a round of golf and still have the energy to go out for dinner with friends and enjoy a night out. So you order the Healthy Ageing Pack, which already saves you, by the way, $30, but you use the code BREAKFAST, very important, you'll get a month's supply of the Ollie Resist for free to support the immunity. 0800 999 309, online at abouthealth.co.nz. Read the label, take only as directed. Of course, that is the Healthy Ageing Pack, and it is only from About Health.
Hosking.
24, final moments with James Shaw. MMP, I'm trying not to make this too political, but the polls all indicate that you will lose in terms of you and the Greens. There isn't a poll at the moment, even with Tamati Murray, there isn't a poll at the moment that gets you to government. Do you regret in any way, one, the way this term has unfolded, and two, that you aren't more broad-based to be able to talk with the Nats?
Well, I mean, obviously we're extending our base because we're polling, 12 to 13% on average at the moment.
Not the group, though, is what I'm saying.
Well, look, I am not one of those people who every time there is an inconvenient poll comes out and says, well, the polls are clearly wrong and I'm not, we're hearing it differently on the doorstep. But at the last two elections, all the stories that we said based on the polls about election night actually ended up with a different result in terms of the shape of the government.
You hand on heart still give Labor a chance?
It's that what I'm saying is I do not know what the outcome of the election is going to be, and ultimately it is up to voters to decide what that is going to be.
But as we sit here this morning, it looks unlikely that Labor can do it. So based on that assumption, does that bother you? And two, would you prefer if you were a party that could talk to the Nats and therefore be in play every election?
Look, it doesn't bother me because ultimately I don't know what the outcome of the election is going to be. I just don't. I'm really happy with our campaign. We're doing better than we ever have before. We're probably going to finish the night with more MPs than we've ever had before, perhaps even 2 or 3 electorate seats, which has never happened before. And then we will play the hand that we are dealt the best that we can. That is just the nature of it. And, frankly, I've been very proud of the work that we have done with the circumstances that we have been in over the course of the last 2 terms.
Control the stuff you can control.
Exactly.
So you drop the hint.
I've gotten quite zen about this.
Good, nothing wrong with being zen. 2 or 3 seats you're claiming. So Chloe?
Yeah, we're confident that Chloe is going to be returned in Auckland Central. It's obviously competitive, so she's certainly not taking anything for chance. We think that Tamitha Paul has a very good chance in Wellington Central. We've got Julian Genter running in Rongotai as well. That's competitive, and a couple of others as well. So it gets progressively more difficult. But you've got to remember, Wellington Central and Rongotai are the 2 seats that have the greatest concentration of Green voters in the country. Yeah. Auckland Central is only our 4th or 5th, and we won that one. So we've got amazing candidates in both Wellington Central and Rongotai and in Mount Albert and others, and we think that we can win there too.
Well, we'll talk again, I'm sure, before the election's over, but always good to see you on this 3-year basis, and we'll see you in 26.
I hope we can see each other more frequently than that, Mike.
Good on you. James Shaw, it is 8:27.
Hiring staff for your team or business is a never-ending nightmare, costing way too much time and money. We're all tightening our belts these days, so with zero placement fees, Join is a proven system that can save you thousands. Join's extensive network of specialist recruiters across New Zealand means you can partner with your own dedicated